Part 3. Feel the weight of that moment you froze, the pause that took more from you than the event ever did. Picture it. You stand at the edge of a decision like someone on a cliff staring at the water below. The mind runs scenarios like a worsened weather report. You'll fail, you'll be embarrassed, you'll be exposed. Your body reacts as if you're really falling. That's not poetic exaggeration. That's biology. Your nervous system doesn't care whether the danger is a literal tiger or the imagined roar of critics. It prepares you to survive, not to thrive. Here's the brutal clarity. Fear hijacks the dashboard so quietly you never notice the theft. The amygdala, call it the alarm room, rings the bell. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that plans, negotiates, and reasons, gets knocked offline for a bit. Heart races, breathing shortens, muscles tense, attention narrows to threat. You feel urgency, but the urgency is false. It wants you to prioritize safety above growth. That rush is useful when you're escaping immediate harm. It's catastrophic when it shows up during a conversation, a pitch, an application, or an honest message. The physiology is neutral. The tragedy is that you follow its script. When the body runs scared, your decision-making narrows into binary modes: fight, flight, or freeze. Freeze is the most common thief of potential. It looks like waiting, planning, or gathering more information. But underneath, it's paralysis dressed in strategy. You tell yourself you're being smart. You're not. You're letting an old survival reflex decide a modern, nuanced problem. Think about the cost. Each paralysis is a tiny tax on your future. Missed conversations become missed relationships. Missed chances become foregone experiments that might have taught you who you really are. Opportunities often look like uncomfortable steps that promise no immediate reward. Fear convinces you the discomfort is proof to stop. That's backward. Discomfort is the currency of growth. There's a psychological trick fear uses that you must know. It confuses probability with possibility. It shows you a vivid image of the worst outcome and asks you to treat that image like the most likely forecast. You imagine humiliation with the clarity of a film trailer and then act as if the premiere is inevitable. In reality, the universe is messy and kind of boring. Most worst cases don't happen nearly as often as you imagine. The statistical reality of most human endeavors is that small, consistent attempts beat occasional perfectionist epics. The math favors motion. Paralysis also creates a feedback loop. You freeze, regret follows, you rehearse the freeze more vividly next time, and fear gets stronger. Breaking that loop is the most practical thing you will ever do. Here is a 4-step interruption protocol to short-circuit the loop. Name the sensation. Say aloud, "I feel tightness in my chest and a rush of images." Naming reduces the power of the signal because language engages the rational brain. Breathe to reset. Slow, measured exhalations for 60 seconds shift your physiology enough to let reasoning come back online. Don't skip this. Biology matters. Take a 5-second commitment. Do something so small you can't argue with it. Open the email. Say one sentence. Draw a line. Movement collapses the imagined worst case into data. Record the result immediately. Write one sentence about what happened. Even if the outcome was messy, writing it down turns emotion into evidence, and evidence erodes fear. You need to collect evidence against fear, deliberately and methodically. Fear is loud. Proof is quiet. Make a proof ledger. Small entries of times you acted and nothing catastrophic happened, or something good happened, or you survived and learned. This ledger is the antidote to the brain's tendency to over-catalog failure. Over time, its pages become persuasive. There's another mechanism fear uses: the false deadline. It convinces you that waiting will give you more clarity, but the truth is, waiting often ruins momentum. Momentum compounds. Once you begin, small wins accrue psychological gravity. You want to continue. Waiting kills that momentum. You must distinguish between productive preparation and decorative delay. A good test? If your preparation has a measurable outcome and a deadline, it's probably productive. If it's endless tinkering, it's decorative. Now, let's Let's talk about consequence management. You cannot eliminate risk, but you can manage downside. That understanding removes the binary thinking that fuels paralysis. Map the worst viable outcome realistically and write how you would respond. If the worst case is loss of a job, list practical next steps: savings, temporary work, networking plan. Seeing a plan for repair makes taking risks rational instead of reckless. It shrinks fear's size by making the downside solvable. Relationship fear is its own animal. The fear of being judged, of speaking up and being dismissed, it's social pain, ancient and immediate. Social threats activate the same regions of the brain as physical pain. That's why rejection feels brutal. But social pain heals. The people who matter will either support you or reveal their unsuitability for your life. Both outcomes are informative. The sooner you let social feedback sort itself, the sooner you stop making decisions based on imagined crowds and start making decisions based on real allies. Here's a tactic for social fear: a mini exposure schedule. Pick low-stakes social acts that trigger anxiety. A short, honest comment in a group chat, one brief idea in a meeting, a LinkedIn post that's imperfect. Do them repeatedly and track the actual reactions. Most of the time, the emotional charge deflates. Exposure turns fear into familiarity. Fear of failure deserves special treatment. People often assume failure is fatal to identity, that a single miss will rewrite who they are. In truth, failure is feedback. Change your metric, measure effort, iteration, and learning, not just binary outcomes. Celebrate the decisions you made, the tests you ran, the hypotheses you invalidated. That's how a career of wins is built, by accumulating experiments, not by collecting trophies. Let's get tactical with a practice that forces your brain to reframe risk. I call it the 3-move experiment. Identify a fear, then plan 3 tiny forward moves you can take over the next week. Each move must be simple and observable. After each move, log 1 sentence. What happened? What you learned. The goal is not to conquer the thing in one hero act. The goal is to gather data and train the nervous system that action produces manageable outcomes. In a month, many fears will be less mystified. In 3 months, you'll have a dossier of evidence. One more truth. Courage is not absence of fear. Courage is the mastery of action despite fear. The sound of someone being brave is not silence. It's a nervous heartbeat and a steady step. When you watch people you admire, notice how often their faces show tension and doubt. They move anyway. That's the model to emulate. Now, the question to make this real for you: think of a time in the past 6 months when fear cost you an opportunity. Not a hypothetical, a real thing. What happened? Be specific. Describe it in 1 sentence. Then imagine the exact move you would take if fear were merely a weather report. What's the next smallest action you would take? Put it in the comments. Tell us what you lost and what you could still gain. Naming it breaks the spell and turns a private regret into a public commitment. Write that 1 sentence now and post it below. What did fear take from you in the past 6 months? And what is the next small move you will make to reclaim it?